This is the Sports Sitdown with Mike Damergis.
Mike Damergis here, along with the great Sammy White, joined the Vikings in 1976 out of Grambling. And Sammy, that was quite a year for you to join the Vikings because they were coming off of that great season that many Vikings, including Fran Tarkington, said in 1975 was their best team. So coming into camp, there were high expectations for you.
Well, it seemed like I heard from every team in the league but the Minnesota Vikings. And so happened on draft day, they gave me a phone call, and I was thrilled and happy. And they had just always was in the playoff and been in the Super Bowl. I was just delighted to be part of it.
What was it like to step on the field in training camp? I mean, think about it. You go from Grambling into stepping on the field with Fran Tarkington, Bud Grant, that steel look of his, and of course Chuck Foreman was kind of at his peak. He might have been the best running back at that time in the NFL, Chuck Foreman.
Well, I think he might have had one in Chicago, but going in the training camp with Fran Tarkington, Chuck Foreman, and all them guys, I can remember on the first or second day on the field, Fran just took me to the side and just, we was just playing catch back and forth. And I guess he was testing my hand because he was drilling them balls pretty hard at me. And, wanted to see what's probably a hand catcher or a body catcher. And he learned quickly that I had pretty good hand-eye coordination.
Well, yeah, you were pretty good. You won the AP UPI Rookie of the Year, 10 touchdowns that season. At what point did you know that you were going to be able to contribute here and that you were here to stay? Because like I said, it had to be a daunting task to come into that Minnesota Vikings team with such tradition and everything.
Well, first day, when you got a pretty good running game, teams had to, stack the box a little more so you get a lot of one-on-one coverage. And it just so happened that's the way it ended up. And one-on-one coverage, I just figured I was going to win or had to win or wanted to win.
And the Vikings that season won 11-2-1 and route to the playoffs, and you had a pretty nice game against Washington as you beat the Redskins in the first round of the playoffs, 35-20. What do you remember about that? And what do you remember about the season going on here? Was there was there a confidence that you guys were going to return to the Super Bowl that year and win it this time?
Yeah, that was confidence. Like I say, first you start if you got a good defense, it's just about going to be in every game. So, offense, had to just deliver a little bit, and most time, we was going to come out on top. I can actually remember one game during my rookie year. I think we was playing Philadelphia, ran through an interception, and I ran and caught the guy back about at the 1 or 2 yard line, and the defensive line, Alan Page and Carl L. and Jim Morrison, they was picking me up like I had done something special. But what I didn't realize, what they was telling me, you gave us a chance to stop them, and they did.
And the Vikings had such lore on defense. The Purple People Eaters. Can you imagine a more intimidating name with Marshall and Page and Eller like that? I mean, talk about them. What you used to see in practice from that defense, and how good they really were, and how much you could appreciate them. Because I don't think they're appreciated enough. Because the Vikings never won a Super Bowl, but that defensive line was as good as any.
Ever been, as a collective group. But they were so good. You have ones going on one first team against each other. And, that defense line just almost just stopped practice because they don't let you get nothing off, don't let you get no yard. And they was very impressive.
Yeah, that Vikings defense was impressive, and the Vikings were impressive in the playoffs. You took care of the Redskins that first round, 35-20. You had 4 receptions for 64 yards, 2 touchdowns as a rookie. And then you had the Rams, and the Vikings seemed to have the Rams number in the playoffs in that cold day in Minnesota. You beat the Rams 24-13. Talk about that game. You didn't have any receptions in that game or touchdowns, though.
Well, I think there was one of them icy snow games, and and people come from the West Coast, it was tough for them to have. Well, and also me coming from the South, that was one of my first or second or third freezing day, and it's almost like I think I don't know, was it that game or another cold game? I was running around with my hands in my pocket. I so good.
Come on,
it's gonna
Sammy.
be hard for me to help him today.
It was only 19 degrees that day. It was only 19
But
degrees.
Thank you. Well, a guy coming from the South, you perspire and the perspire fall off the face, turn into ice. That's intimidating.
And Chuck Foreman, we were talking about Chuck Foreman earlier, one of the great backs of the 1970s, along with, you mentioned Walter Payton, Larry Zonka, O.J. Simpson, and a few others there in the 70s, where it was when teams ran the ball constantly, and Foreman that day had 118 yards. So you take care of the L.A. Rams, 24-13. You hold them off. You had a 10-0 lead at halftime. The Rams scored 13 points in the third quarter. Now you're heading to the Super Bowl, and what is the mentality of the team as they're getting ready to play the Raiders? Because the Raiders have knocked on the door several times as well, and they didn't get there. But going in this time, though, was there confidence that you guys were going to get it done against the Raider team?
Right, because, the Vikings have been there a couple times before, and, they kind of know what to expect and how things go and everything. And we went in there, with a whole lot of confidence and, thinking that we can win the ball game, and, sometimes it just take one little bad thing go wrong. You got a flat tire and it can, take the air out you. So,
well, taking the air out of you, the first quarter there was no score, but then the Vikings block Ray Guy. That was never done before
right.
for Ray Guy, and that was the 16th block kick for the Vikings on the season. You had the ball at the 2-yard line, and
that's when I think we got deflated.
I was going to say there was a couple of running plays. Chuck fumbled the ball, and does a play like that really completely take a team out of its rhythm and as you said, deflate them? And you think do you think the game was won on that play, won or lost on that play?
I mean, you have to look at you're on the 2-yard line, 1-yard line. Expectation, you're gonna get points. Whether you score a touchdown, whether you get a field goal. And then, you come away with nothing, turnover, that's deflating. And, if you're human, it's hard not to, drop your head.
What was Bud Grant saying on the sidelines? What was Fran Tarkenton saying on the sidelines? What was the defense? What was the conversation? I mean, I'm sure it was like a insanity on the sidelines during the Super Bowl, getting things done, getting barked orders. But what do you remember? Who do you remember saying stuff in that game? As you're sleeping at bed at 12 o'clock at night, do you think about the '76 Super Bowl and what was going on and what was said?
Well, Bud, he never changed his expression. Was it good or bad? And Fran was, telling we got to rally, we can come back, we can do this, and that do kind of pick you back up and give you some hope. And we came back on the field and we was moving the ball and everything, and we just couldn't score enough points that day.
Well, I was a 10-year-old kid at the time here, and I was very upset that the Vikings looked like they were going to lose this game. I just want you to know that. And I'm still scarred by the loss, so you're not the only one, along with Viking fans. I've seen interviews with Fran Tarkenton, and the emotion is palpable that he feels like he let the city down. And of course, you were only there for the one Super Bowl, the last time the Vikings were in a Super Bowl. How heavy is it on players that they feel like they might have let the city down? And it's really just a game in the grand scheme of life, but players hold on to this for a long time.
Yeah, team like Minnesota and their fans, it's almost like a marriage, and they want the best for you, and you want the best for them. And to give them a Super Bowl win, you could have been superheroes there forever. And thing about it, we got there when my rookie year, and they got there a couple of years before, and never came across us that winner, and everybody wants that win for the Super Bowl. But Vikings always have great fans, and they care about the game, and they care about the Vikings, but they still wanted that Super Bowl win.
Still waiting for that Super Bowl win. Of course, you were involved in a couple of big plays in that game. Tarkington connected with you in the hit by Tatum on you where you held onto the ball but knocked your helmet off. Do you remember that play? Do you remember, oh, no, I'm going to get hit? What was your thought going into that?
First thing, I've been schooled and taught when the ball in the air, that's my ball, especially if it's coming towards me. And, I really never saw Jack Tatum. My thing was I was going straight, catch the ball, and tuck it away. But after the collision, I laid there a minute and said, I think I need to think about this for a second. And they, came out and made sure I was all right. And I just told them, I guess I need to sit out a play.
And then also in the game, the famous Willie Brown interception. That play was for you. What went wrong on that play that the Raiders were able to pick it off there? Did they see it coming right from the get go?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just running like a little 5-yard out, and Willie just really never bagged up. And when the ball got there, it was a little behind, but when he got it, I had to spin around, and when I spin around, I had no balance, and so it made it easy for him to return it.
Listen, Sammy, I've seen the NFL films here. It looks like you don't want to catch him when you're running after he picked off that ball.
Yeah, I was balance, and he got away from me.
So a tough 32-14 loss. You fly back to Minnesota. What was the flight back like on the plane going back to Minnesota after the loss?
Well, actually, I didn't fly back with him because we was practicing a Pro Bowl out in San Diego, I believe, and I had to stay back because I was going on to the Pro Bowl.
And we're talking with Sammy White, the Vikings pick in the 1976 draft, played in the Super Bowl, won Rookie of the Year, AP, UPI, and went with the Vikings again to the Super Bowl. The last time the Vikings were in a Super Bowl. Going into camp in 1977, how much of a hangover was there from the Super Bowl loss with the Vikings?
Big. A lot, Our expectation that, we thought we was going to win the game, and we believed we was going to win the game. And, when we did not, I think it took so much out of us that that nice run we had winning the conference and all that stuff, I think we lost that the next year.
And in 77, you guys went 9-5, and you went out to play the Rams. And I remember this game on TV. I don't know if it was whether you or Ahmad Rashad didn't get it was a mud fest, as I remember, right? It was and you guys beat the Rams at a shocker 14-7. But I don't know if it was you or Ahmad Rashad that had the white jersey. You didn't get dirty at all. Was it you or Ahmad?
Probably Ahmad. I tried to get dirty.
Well, you didn't have any receptions in the game, and it was a shocker that you guys beat the Rams. The Rams, of course, were the favorite in that game, but you went on to take on the Cowboys, and you ran into a buzzsaw in Dallas in that game. You didn't have much of a chance against the Cowboys, did you, in that game?
Not at all. They was hitting on all cylinders. Starback and his receivers, Drew Pearson, all them guys was ready to go, and then you had Dorsett in the backfield. So it was really rough for us that day.
And so that was kind of a little bit of a decline for the Vikings for a couple of years after making the Super Bowl 3 out of 4 years, and then you saw Tarkington was getting older, and then they had the transition from Tommy Kramer. Did you notice the difference going into Viking training camp from 76, say, to 1980, 79, 80?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when we first started going to training camp, everybody had a kind of high, knowing what to expect and knowing just about how many wins you're going to have and we're going to get the job done. And then, after that, some years passed, a couple of guys retired. Then it was like pretty much starting all over again. And, starting from the bottom and trying to get back to where we was. So that was a tough thing.
Yeah, in 81, 82, or is it 80? You made the playoffs against the Eagles and lost to them. 82 at the playoffs during the strike shortened year. Talk about how the difference in the game changed. I'm sure you follow football today quite a bit, and the rule changes. Explain the difference in the rule changes and how much more open the game is today as opposed to when you played, when it was a predominantly running game.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest difference is, you can't touch the receiver after what is 5 yards or something like that. When it used to be, they can grab you, hold you, knock you out when the ball coming to you or not. So that was a big difference. Then after they did put in no touching after 5 yards, made the passing game open up a lot more for the receiver. And, today's game, there's nothing for them to put 4 and 5 receivers on the field. And nowadays, if you got 3 on the field, you're real lucky. And it's just I think, a much faster pace these days than the old days. Because, like you say, no days you ran the ball so much, that it was 4 yards in a cloud of dust. The way they used to think about the game, and in the old days, they always was trying to find ways to make the game shorter, and the easy way to do it is to run the ball.
In your estimation, in the conversation always comes up, who's the best quarterback? Brady, Manning, Montana, Marino. Staubach occasionally gets mentioned in there. Fran rarely gets mentioned in there. How would you analyze Fran Tarkenton as a quarterback? And is he one of the all-time greats?
Oh, he's most definitely one of the all-time great. The label he's on always have is how smart he was. I don't saw a lot of time when Jerry Burns sent in a play and he shake it off and say that ain't no work, and he'll call his, or sometimes I saw him draw something up in the dirt. So, like I say, he's one of the smartest quarterbacks probably ever played the game, and he played the position well.
Who was the best team you went against in your day? I know you went against the '85 Bears in your last season there, but you also faced the Steelers as well. They had a great defense. The Broncos had good defense back in the day. The Cowboys did, but in the '80s, you saw the New York Giants had a good defense, and then the Bears. Who was the best defense you went against in your time?
The '85 Bears, best defense I ever seen. I mean, when you have 1.7 to get the ball off, ain't no defense gonna get no better than that.
Now they ran the 46 defense. What made that defense so tough as opposed to other defenses?
How they disguise it, and it was attack defense, and it was just tough for you to match up your blocking scheme against it. Like someone always came free.
And in 1985, that was your last season. The USFL folded, and you had a couple of USFL players come on to the Vikings that had a big impact on them to resurge the team in the later '80s to the playoffs again. One of them was a wide receiver named Anthony Carter. What do you remember about AC joining the team, and what made him so good?
Well, he came in with a high reputation, and thing about it. He was kind of like me, not the fastest, but always gonna know your assignment, solid on your routes, and for sure catch the ball. He's a big play guy waiting to make a play.
And how about Keith Millard on defense? He really solidified that defense for you guys when he came around.
Yeah, he kind of reminded you of Alan Page when he came in. How dominant he was on the defensive line. And, it was tough for people to block him, and he really made a lot of plays and made it kind of easy for the defense again.
And we're talking with Sammy White, former Minnesota Vikings wide receiver, Rookie of the Year, 1976, APUPI. When you look back at the times you played, Sammy, and you look today and how there's such a concern for concussions and rightfully so, does it make you wonder? Does it make you angry that players weren't cared for in the proper way in the 1970s and 1980s?
Well, back then, we were just happy to play. For us getting hurt and getting concussion, we got a concussion, we still want to play. So we probably was hurting ourselves more than, anything. But it is a good thing that they do take more precaution now, and somebody get a hard hit, somebody get hit to the head, they got the doctors and everybody on the sideline, and they can check you right away. It's got tents set up where they can take you in the tent and give you an X-ray and all kind of stuff. So it's definitely a lot better for the game today. And like I say, our days, it was like there was no rule on defense.
No, you look at the videos, and even the helmets they're basically stuck to the players' heads. There was no padding for the helmets in there.
Yeah, a lot of like strap or rope inside the helmet. First padding the upper padding wasn't there.
Well, the Vikings always look good with the purple helmets and the white, and I'm glad you and Ahmad were able to keep your jerseys white in against the Rams in '77. So, what are you doing? What are you doing these days, Sammy? I mean, the Viking fan base is a fervent fan base. They love the Vikings. They love the history. They love the team, and I know a lot of players like yourself and Chuck Foreman do a lot of signings and stuff like that. What are you doing with yourself, and what was life like after football when you retired in '85?
Okay, after I retired, came back to Louisiana and started working at Georgia Pacific, and then I got into coaching back at Grambling State University, and stayed there until I retired, and now I just do a lot of honeydew and do a little gardening.
Well, that's a good thing. What do you think about when you're sitting around? I mean, what games, what moments do you think about? Because as fans, we think about this game or that game and this stuff. Like, what are the moments or games you think about from your playing days when no one's around and you're just sitting having a beer or having a cup of coffee, looking at the lake or by the water or something like that?
Well, if you don't think about something, you think about one of your big games. And, I had the big game against Detroit and set the record for 200-some yards. And then JJ came back and broke it. That was a big thing. And me and JJ, we don't talk from time to time. And did a couple of interviews together and everything. So I told him, I say, well, at least it's another Louisiana kid broke the record.